Good morning and welcome everybody to the Lethbridge Hurricanes dressing room. Super excited to do this in here. We've done it in the past upstairs and felt that today we'd change it up. For those that don't know, I think everybody here knows, but my name is Dustin Forbes with the Hurricanes, Broadcaster Communications, among other things. We would like to welcome, of course, our business staff led by Terry Aasman here. Board of Directors, many of them, of course, President Doug Paisley in attendance as well, and of course, the fans that were able to make it out, and we can't forget the fine media in our city. A couple of housekeeping notes for the media standpoint. Peter Anholt will speak. He'll be followed by Matt Anholt. After that, Matt will take questions from the podium. We'll do the media availability here so everybody has a chance to hear the questions and the answers, and then we'll bring Pete back up following Matt. Any other media requests we can make happen as well afterwards. So, without further ado, the General Manager of the Lethbridge Hurricanes, Peter Anholt.
Thanks, Dustin. Really exciting day for the Lethbridge Hurricanes. But first, I do want to acknowledge the board members that are here tonight. Thanks for being a part of it. And of course, Doug Paisley, our president, really appreciate you guys coming, and the fans that are here today. That's awesome, and it's nice to see the media being here today too. So thanks for coming. You know, when I look at our staff that we're going to announce today, I'm so excited about the entire coaching staff. You know, when we just starting with Matt Weninger, being from Lethbridge, he's worked with the Moose Jaw Warriors for a long time prior to coming here, so his experience is going to be very, very important for our hockey club. Torrin White, of course, played here with the Lethbridge Pronghorns, so he spent some time here in Lethbridge. And from a family standpoint, of course, most people know that Jagger White, his little brother, played for the Lethbridge Hurricanes back a number of years ago. You know, we've got Ryan Aasman here, of course, as a returning coach, assistant coach with us, and then last but not least, Matt Anholt will be our incoming head coach. Right off the bat, obviously, you know, it's pretty rare that a general manager names his son as a head coach of the hockey club, and you know, but when you get past that, Matt's credentials are unquestionable. First of all, he's the very first coach that has come up through within the system and has become the head coach. There's been others that have been in the system and have left and then have come back to be the head coach. Mike Dick being one of them, but Matt is the first one to stay within the organization and grow to be our head coach. And you know, with the credentials he's had and the history that he's had in the game, and I think with the challenges that we have in our league and how the landscape is changing with the new rules and so on, having young coaches and that can deal with the young players and the new challenges that we're going to have, I think is paramount. But I think specifically with Matt being, you know, working for Brent Kissio first, and learning and watching how Brent did his job, and then of course, you know, we're really lucky to have Bill Peters here for 2 years. I kept on saying to the coaches, it was like you were going to University of Bill for 2 years and got a degree from Bill. So I think that cannot be understated. And I think our coaches, our players are really excited about going forward here with our new staff, and any of our new players coming in have been excited when they've been told about our young coaching staff coming in. So with that, I'd like to introduce our new head coach, Matt Anholt. You want me to turn it around?
Yeah.
Well, there we go.
There you go.
16.
Well, thanks for everybody for coming. Right off the hop, I just want to say, thanks to Peter and Doug Paisley and the rest of the board for entrusting me in this position. Extremely excited, extremely honored, to be leading the next era of Hurricanes hockey. When you get into coaching, everybody wants to have the opportunity to be a head coach in their life, and especially in a prestigious league like the Western Hockey League is. And I'm no different. You look back and you realize how lucky you are to be given the opportunity, but how lucky you are to work with extremely good mentors and leaders over your years. And I'm no different with as Peter already mentioned, Brent Kissio, Bill Peters, and as well as a lot of the assistant coaches that I was working with over the years. Andrew Doty's here today, but and Jeff Hansen, Ryan Aasman, and as well as the guys I was able to work with in Hockey Canada. Learned lots, and forever grateful for those guys for the lessons I learned over my first 7 years coaching. But again, couldn't be more excited, and can't wait to get going.
Yeah, Matt, can you just tell us about your experience in the world of coaching, and specifically with the Hurricanes?
Yeah, it's been 7 years now. It's been excellent. We've had really good teams here. Obviously last year was the most successful year we've had in my time here, but even over the years, we've made the playoffs every year, and we've turned kids into pros, and we've had a lot of fun in doing so. So my experience has been nothing short of excellent. Was fortunate enough to go to some Hockey Canada events as well. You can steal a lot of ideas when you're there, and learn from some really good coaches from across Canada. And my experience has been nothing short of a good start to a career, but looking forward to the next era of my life here.
Thank you. Now, what kind of strategy are you going to bring into the coaching position with kind of bouncing off your experience and kind of to differentiate yourself from Bill Peters and past coaches?
Yeah, it's going to be like everybody has an idea of how they want to play, and there's lots of ways that us as a coaching staff, me and Ryan have worked under Bill and Brent over the last few years together. We, there's lots of little things that those two, going to take from them and adjust and learn. But like hockey is an ever-going change. I could stand up here and tell you a bunch of tactics and systems, but that might change in 2 years from how we want to play, because the game changes so fast. And you watch the Florida Panthers win the Stanley Cup. I bet you a lot of people are going to try to emulate what they did, because that's what worked at the highest level. So that's just kind of the way it goes. But realistically, your team personnel decides kind of how you want to play. I think a good coach can understand what he has on his roster and manage how he wants to play based off what he has in front of him. Because if you want to play a big man's game, but you have a bunch of small skill players, it doesn't really work that way. So
I guess, Matt, just how did working with Bill and Brent over the last few years, how did that prepare you for this opportunity?
Yeah, I owe everything to those guys. Brent obviously gave me my first opportunity to be a coach. I started working with Andrew and Brent and Jeff Hansen, and I was kind of learning a lot and getting yelled at a lot too, a little bit. But I know I had lots to learn, like every first-time coach does. But Brent had an unbelievable understanding of how to win in this level. What it takes to win in junior hockey, it's a lot different than the NHL and American League and what have you. And he was excellent at that, understanding the systems and to put in place to help junior hockey players in a simple way. And then Bill was as detailed as it comes in all facets of hockey. It wasn't just hockey, it was scheduling, it was meals, it was how we did our day-to-day to make it easier on the players. And being detail orientated is important as a head coach. And so there's lots of things I can take from both those two specifically.
Matt, Dustin touched on it, you being kind of the first
homegrown coach here for the Hurricanes. What does that mean for you as a guy to come up through the system here and finally land the head coaching job?
Yeah, Doug Paisley mentioned that to me last night. Actually, I had no idea. I thought that was pretty cool. Obviously, I'm really honored to be standing here in general, but I thought that was a cool little tidbit fact. Again, just there's lots of history here. I mean, I've been here now for 7 years. I know how much this community cares about the team, and I couldn't be more honored to be standing here today, but especially in that way that, I know the players here. I've been fortunate enough to be a big part of helping draft some of the players, trade for some of the players, develop some of the players, if not all of them, and excited to help all those kids move forward in their career, as a head coach now.
I think you've given plenty of reasons, but for those who maybe say that you got this promotion because of your name, what would your statement for that be?
Yeah, I don't even think about it, to be honest. I haven't even thought about that, honestly. I know what I can do as a head coach, as well as, relying on my assistants standing up here with me or sitting up here with me. That's not even at my thought. There's lots of coaches in all sports that have prominent father figures that are around sports that they maybe had a little bit of a theory when they got positions, and it's worked out pretty good for Kyle Shanahan, for example. I'm not too worried about it.
You already touched on a lot about what you are wanting to bring to the franchise. Is there something you want to say to the fans about what fans can expect this upcoming season?
This upcoming season? Yeah, I mean, I think I would probably guess there's a little bit of an idea that maybe we're going to take a step back based off last year, and rightfully so. We have a lot of older guys who graduated, but I think we have lots of really good players coming back. Lots of guys who've been around for a long time that are elite junior hockey players, and we're hoping to move them on to be professional players. But I would say, off the hop, just be ready to watch good hockey, or like fun hockey. We want to have the puck. I want to play with the puck. I want to score goals. That's what I think junior hockey is all about. I want the players to make plays, and I hope that they can make plays. Obviously, that's where we have some really good players, but we want to make plays, and if they fail and turn a puck over, then work twice as hard to get it back. I want to score goals, and I want to play with the puck, so I want to play exciting hockey.
What are you going to do differently than some of the previous coaches to kind of put your mark on it, your touch?
Good question. I think not that we didn't do it before at all, but we did a ton of this sort of stuff. But I think in the new age with the NCAA change, I think skill and development is going to be even more so at the forefront, that we need to take a little bit understanding how important it is for these kids that they get that they're going to get better here, that they can improve here, that this is a place that they can get better and get opportunity and improve, and maybe be an NHL draft pick or get signed by an NHL team or get a good scholarship. Player retention is at an all-time struggle, I would say, in the CHL as of today, and we need to have a big message to our players, for the next 100 years about that. We need to keep these guys, and they can get better here, and they're going to get opportunity here.
Any follow-ups?
I would like to ask, your age as well as your head coaches, that's an impressive feat. What does this maybe be for your future, potentially?
Anything could happen. I don't know. That's a great question. Yeah, we'll see. That's hard to say. There's lots of good coaches. I think Brent Kissio started around the same age. Maybe he was a year older than me or at the time. But there's been lots of young coaches in the league that have had lots of success. But also there's lots of young coaches who haven't had any success. And I'm not thinking about the big picture. I'm thinking about the next day and how we can improve each and every individual today.
You actually want to touch on some of that relationship that you already have with some of the players that are returning?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, as an assistant coach, you have an ability it's a little easier to talk to the players. I've been an assistant coach with, Logan Wormwald now for the last 4 seasons. Luke Cousins, Tristan Doyle, Cohen Cleaver, Carson Adair, obviously as an assistant coach. It's a little easier for those kids to come to, me and Ryan when we were assistant coaches. I think I have a very, open relationship with those kids, and where they can come to me and with problems, and I expect that to be no different as a head coach. I want to be a player-friendly coach. Obviously, I'm not relatively that much older than them. So, I want this to be an open situation where the kids can come to me with problems, whether it may be on or off the ice. And I think that's kind of what every player wants. They want to have a relationship with all their coaches, but specifically with their head coach to know where he stands.
I'll ask you one. You look at the coaches that are on your staff now, it's a pretty youthful group. Maybe the excitement level to work with the new staff that you have.
Yeah, I think, when me and Pete and Ryan talked about hiring another assistant coach right off the get-go, Torrin was somebody that we thought about because we do have a lot of similarities in regards to relationships, know a lot of people that know Torrin, and we wanted somebody that has a lot of juice, that's excited to get better and excited to have our players improve, and I think that's exactly what coaching is all about. And I think we're real excited to add Torrin. It was a really good fit. And then with Matt Weninger, again, lots of commonalities with relationships. I've known Matt since I moved to Lethbridge, and obviously he has a lot of Lethbridge connections. There's, I don't think age has anything to do with how good of a coach you can be. I think it has to do with how excited you are to come to work every day. And we're pretty fortunate to work in hockey, and I want guys around that are excited to do that.
The search this time, obviously you didn't have to go very far to look, but what was that like this time?
You know what?
Ultimately, I guess it's kind of a two-parter, and then how did you ultimately land on?
Yeah, great question. It was really, really obvious to me what our plan was. I think the plan was, for me, put in place a couple of years ago. We actually talked, Matt and I, before Bill came, and we talked about whether he was ready or not to be a head coach, and he didn't feel at that point he was. And then having Bill here, and I think the big thing with my relationship with Matt is that it was never really direct. There was always insulation between us, and whether it was the head coach or even through the scouting, when Matt would be with us in the scouting and with all at the tournaments and so on. So, you see and you watch how guys around our league interact with your staff, and specifically with Matt, and how he's respected around the league, and knowing for a fact that if we didn't hire him, somebody else was. And I think that really stood out for me. So I think so the search was pretty short. It was really clear to me, and I think my history of that has really been clear too. There was not much of a search with Brent Kissio. There was not much of a search for Billy Peters. There's, when we hired Azer, there was no search. We hired the right guy, and you can go through a process if you like, but when your gut's right, when your gut's right, and that's how we feel today.
How would you describe, I guess, the culture of the staff?
Hardworking, focused, intense in ways, but also young. Lots of hair. And that's important. So, I really like this staff. We've been really fortunate here to have strong staffs over the years, and I think that's indicative of what we've done here in the last 10 years. When you look at our franchise in the last 10 years, we're 7th in winning percentage in the CHL, and I don't say that boasting. I say it from a standpoint of how our coaches have worked and the job that our scouts have done and so on. When you say that out of 60 teams in 10 years, that's significant. and I think it just shows the track record of our organization and continuity of our organization, whether it be in the office staff or whether it be in the coaching staff, but also how we've pushed people to pro. I mean, it started with Dotes. Brent Kissio left here as a pro. That was our first time that a Hurricane head coach has turned pro out of our organization. And then, of course, followed that up with Bill leaving here to go back to pro, coaching in the DL in Augsburg. So, we're proud of those things. That's the culture. And really, I think when you think our players, hey, there's always glitches, but I think for the most part, we are, like since I've been here, we've always said that the players are number one. That's your biggest and best asset. But there's always glitches, and there's always people that will be, discontented, and that's the way it is. It's a sport that is conducive to some adversity and also but some turmoil. But I think we've eliminated a lot of that over the last decade, and we've kept things in-house for the most part, and I think everybody respects that.
You talk about success and the youthfulness of the coaches as well. I mean, are you expecting this to be a long-term project? Is it something where the expectation is to hit the ground running again and keep like last year? What did it?
I think from, as the general manager, it's always the big picture. Sure, I think as an organization, you always have to have your thumb on the pulse of your team, because things can get away in a hurry if you let it. But I think as a general manager and along with our board, we look at the big picture and work from that. And the coaches are more on the day-to-day, right? And they're in the fire. And so it's up to us, I guess you could say, almost the adults in the room to make sure that that's kept in perspective and let the coaches do their job, give them the players that hopefully they can be successful with, but understand they've got to develop the players that we've got too. So it's working hand in hand with our scouts, and we've been lucky. Rob McLaughlin was with us for almost a decade too. We've had a group of scouts that have been with us, talk about continuity. So, those kind of things, and we've got some work to do. We got to start recovering assets from the deals that we did last year. So the general manager's got a lot of work to do here. But that being said, that's the fun part of it too. That's a challenge, right?
Peter, obviously Matt's resume speaks for itself, but just in terms of hiring your son, were you concerned at all just how the optics might look to fans, onlookers, or was that a non-factor?
That's always something that you think about, but I think when it's all said and done, it's the right thing to do. Any hire that you make, there's always the naysayers, there's always the optics of this and that. Ultimately, hey, I know the new coach that's coming in pretty good. I think we can help him along the way, but ultimately he's gonna make some mistakes too, and he's gonna work through those mistakes. And a funny story about Matt. At least I think it's funny. When I was coaching in Prince Albert, Dave Manson was my assistant, and we'd lost an exhibition game. And Dave and Matt, I don't know if he was 7 or 8 or whatever, and Matt and Dave were walking, and he said to Manso, he said, "Where are we going?" He says, "Well," and Manso, he says, we're going to get food for the players." we're going to feed him after a loss? So I knew right then that the kid had some giddy up, and he was pretty intense. So anyways, there's always naysayers. It didn't matter. Hey, when we hired Brent Kissio, he was a young coach where people were wondering, what are you doing hiring him? He had no experience. But I think, we weren't going to make that mistake that the Calgary Hitmen possibly made by not hiring Brent Kissio. So.
Yes, Peter, maybe just talk about since Matt's been coaching with the Hurricanes here, just maybe talk about what's the biggest thing you've seen in his development as a coach as the years have gone on and coming up to this point where he's been a head coach now.
Well, I think, it all kind of starts back in his playing days where he was a captain on any team that he played for. And I think even in those situations you're learning. And then, of course, coming in here initially as the skills and development coach with Brent and then moving into the assistant coaches and he keeps learning, kept learning. I think too, I think head coaches for the most part, 85 to 90% of head coaches are the same. They have the same personality. They kind of do the same things. They have the same principles. There's that extra 10%, and that's what I think coaches have to figure out. First of all, they have to have a work ethic. I think, and that's without question. I think you have to have a little bit of intensity and but I also think now in this day and age, communication is paramount with the young players of today, and we have that, I think, with our young coaching staff. So I think that's important. So, and I think that's how a coach learns and grows, right? Over time, and not only the guys that he coached with, you see what they do right, but you also can maybe pick and choose some of the things that you wouldn't do, and so I think that's important too.
Just being Matt's father, what's it like working with your son? You hear good and bad stories of family working together. What's it like for you, Pete?
Didn't see him a lot because they're down here, they're working. I'd touch base with the coaches. I'll touch base with the coaches in the morning, probably have a coffee with them, make sure something's going on. But, so it's kind of interesting. People are I know it's easy to focus on the father-son thing, but really it doesn't really matter. It doesn't. It's business, and I think that we seem to be able to separate that business, with family and how we treat each other at home or around the house or around the dinner table, a family dinner, or at work here. Way different. It's way different. And business is business. And ultimately, it's to make sure our players have an atmosphere where they have a chance to win on any given night, and also have a chance to develop in a really good atmosphere. And I think that's the challenge to our coaching staff, whether he's my son or not. Yeah.
Was it deliberate on your part to have a younger coaching staff overall?
100%. Yeah. It was totally in my mind to go that route. Hey, there's lots of good older coaches that would have been a good fit here too. But ultimately my plan was to go this route, and I never really changed my mind on that over the last couple of years. I had a real good feel for what we wanted to do here.